der zentralen Position. Nur Schwanzer hat er Vorsicht. Dann ist es Fernkampf. Er ist im Strafraum. Tor! Tor! Für die Frankfurter Eintracht. 5:1. Herrje!
Hi and welcome to the German Fußball podcast. We have just concluded the first round of the Bundesliga season, and as always, have the great joy of welcoming Jan Fjortov, my dad, to the podcast. Dad, how are you?
I'm fine. Normally, I'm in England every weekend. As you know, I didn't. There was some parties to go to. There was some birthday parties, and there was some different things this weekend. So I was in studio. I was in the studio, the Viaplay studio, the whole Saturday. A lot of great games. Normally, when you wait in England for the last game, that could be a quote boring game. But when it's Manchester City against Newcastle, it's not something you think, we have to do it. It was a great game. And the advantage, of course, when they start the Bundesliga season obwohl, I start with German words now, when they started with Werder Bremen and Bayern Munich on Friday, but still I had the whole day watching all games. And yes, I work with English football, but I follow German football very closely, and I had a chance when I was sitting in the studio doing that. And how was your weekend?
The weekend was very good, very chill. I'm trying to remember back to it, but rare sunlight in London. But also, obviously, like you said, when there is that initial buzz of the Bundesliga season starting, there's a lot of excitement. You want to see as many games as possible, starting with Friday, starting with Werder Bremen against Harry Kane, and the Kane Mania that followed in a rather convincing that 4-0 performance. Huge relief, I bet, for Tuchel, or at least to see what his team was capable of, and a goal and assist for Harry Kane. I guess, how do you reflect on that performance?
Well, first of all, I got 3 kids, and you kids have always said, whatever joke I do now, they are all dad jokes. So I think in every time when I try to make a joke. But can you imagine, we were so close of having an attack at Bayern with Sané, Mané, and Kane. Harry Kane that been. And the reason I say that is when we saw the scores, there were 2 Leroy Sané goals, and there was 1 assist, yes, from Harry Kane, and 1 goal. The interesting with this game, Marcus, was that Leroy Sané made it 1-0 for Bayern very early, but then I had to wait to the 70th minute to get a 2-0. That was Harry Kane's goal, and then they scored 2 goals in injury time. So yes, Bayern winning a convincing win against a team they always beat, by the way, Werder Bremen. But the 4-0 was very convincingly. It's important for Harry Kane to get that goal very early. I was of course myself a striker. Sometimes you need that goal so early in the season to take that heavy thing off you. It's interesting to see the Kane mania that has been in Munich at the moment. I mean, I read a lot of the magazine. I see a lot of the TV shows. So I asked my friend Archie from ESPN, because he is Archie from ESPN, one of the best interviewers around, I think, a guy that just decided, based in England, based on the island, and said, no, I'm going to Germany. I'm going to be an expert on German football. And he asked, one of the most respected people there, because he has this feeling when he got an interview, he gets more out of them. And he had an interview, by the way, and warning Harry Kane for all the things that he should not say and how they meant things in German. For example, if they say genau, then you know, yes, of course, whatever you say, you can say genau, then you agree with the guys. Just an example how he's doing it. So I asked Archie to do this for us, Marcus, to send us as a message of how he's found the first games of Harry Kane in Munich.
Hello, Marcus. Hello, Jan. Harry Kane mania. I have to start actually down in Munich at Siebener where I was on Wednesday to interview him, and just seeing the swarm of people outside still wearing Harry Kane shirts with the new number 9 on the back. Mainly kids, I have to say, but 1 or 2 adults. And going inside the club shop and noticing that they've got all the players' shirts hung up. But if you wanted a Kane shirt, I think because they'd all gone already, you had to get a fresh Bayern Munich shirt and get it printed on the back by the club staff. So I was already feeling Kane mania at that point. And then when I went to Bremen, it went up a notch, particularly after the game, where I saw security guards leaving their post for the 100-meter dash that Harry Kane had to make from the changing rooms to the bus. And I remember hearing one security guard who seemed like more of a boss saying to a colleague of his, "Get me the names of whoever's gone to take pictures with Kane." But that's the point, I guess, is that people were willing to risk their jobs for being like, "Oh yeah, but I've got to go get a picture with Harry Kane." It's such a big deal for people. I noticed there were a lot more English journalists in the press box as well. I hope that there's more throughout the season so that you can see all the ups and downs of the rest of the league as well. But yeah, everything did go up a notch with having Harry Kane around. When I was in Frankfurt on Sunday, it was worth noting that one Frankfurt fan I spoke to said, "Oh great, Harry Kane's in the league. What does that mean? He's going to come here and score 4 goals. How fantastic. How great for the Bundesliga." But I think his general point is more that could it stop being construed that things that are great for Bayern Munich are great for the Bundesliga? Because obviously Bayern Munich do Bayern Munich and that's their prerogative. But yeah, sometimes when the likes of Karl-Heinz Rummenigge say, "And isn't this great for the Bundesliga?" that really rubs fans up the wrong way. But yeah, it was quite an experience and something that I've not seen before. I mean, the Bundesliga entered. I've fallen into the trap myself. Bayern Munich entered the big money race with signing a player for that kind of money, and there was something different about watching them with Harry Kane, and it was quite something. Take care, guys. All the best.
And that was Archie painting a picture, really, Dad, about the Kane mania that is in Germany, saying that it's something that he at least hasn't seen since he moved there. We've talked a lot about Kane for a long, long time, but just to conclude the topic, Kane, just put into context kind of the superstar that is going to the Bundesliga and what it means, and kind of backing up to what Archie said in terms of an unprecedented kind of arrival of a superstar.
Yeah, I follow German football. I'm so old that my first football game I saw was West Germany against Holland 1974. So I've experienced a lot of the big signings. There are a lot of great players who have developed in Germany. But in terms of getting a superstar to German football, being a superstar at the moment you're signed, I have to go back to Kevin Keegan, the Liverpool legend, superstar. We talked about that in the last episode when he came to Hamburger Sportsverein. The thing is with Harry Kane, to conclude that helps the self-confidence, the respect of German football. German football, or Germany, is a very proud country, and they've developed so many great footballers. They have won so many trophies, both on national team level and in Champions League, especially with Bayern and also Dortmund, of course. But the thing is now the empire schlägt zurück. The empire is coming back now and saying, well, we got the English captain. And it was interesting that Harry Kane is not only a footballer, he is by attitude the best one around. You can't be mad at him. He is one of the best persons around, so polite in all interviews, saying the right things, not saying the right things just because he have to. This is the guy there is. He was very surprised. He was very amazed of the atmosphere in the Weserstadion in Bremen. He said this was fantastic. And I never like to compare the leagues. I've had a pleasure to work in both leagues. I've had the pleasure to play in Bundesliga and in the Premier League. I would just say it this way. It's different in Germany because it's a much more singing. You may say that in some stadiums in England there are a lot of tourists. You may say that there are more passionate the fans in Germany. I just say you may say that.
Very diplomatic of you, that as ever. But yes, it was a fantastic buzz around the Bundesliga. And if we go ahead then, and maybe we can start a bit top to bottom, maybe integrate some of our season predictions at that. And I think the natural kind of jump then would be to the Leverkusen-Leipzig game. We discussed more in detail the Leipzig team from last week following their convincing 3-0 win away at Bayern at Allianz Arena. So if we look towards Leverkusen, and you pointed to in your predictions, every year there is this expectation and hope that Leverkusen will be at the very top. And yet again, I will say, yeah, but it looks like they will. But you must say that under Alonso now, under a clear identity that was formed when he took over, they were at the very bottom before he took over, had a great Europa League run, and now started with a 3-2 win against RB Leipzig. Might this be the year we see them, at the very least, in the Champions League spots?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that won't be a big surprise. It is always interesting when you start the season. I guess when you have a lot of top clubs, like you see in England, you have to have City, Newcastle. That was the second round. Here is Leverkusen against Leipzig. I guess you can't avoid them. And I put my glasses on because I've noted all the details from the game. But it was an interesting game because there was an intensity to the game all along. And we have to say there was also some sad news because when Leverkusen scored a goal, a fan, fell down from one of the upper ties, injured, had to take to hospitals. We just pray that he's okay. But it was a very passionate game. And for Marco Rose, after beating Bayern, then he playing Leverkusen, almost scored again, of course. They were 3-1 up. But that was the game of the first round. Two passionate team. I mean, how do you I guess you saw more of the game than me because I just saw the highlights.
Well, if I put it kind of in a macro analysis, I think what you see are two teams that will undoubtedly fight for Champions League spots. I touched upon it a bit last week. I said Leipzig are an extremely exciting team, but it's a younger team, right, than it has been before. So whether they can stay put throughout an entire season fighting for the top remains, or at least for a championship. Having said that, Leverkusen away will undoubtedly be one of the toughest games this season. And what I like with this team is that they still have that youthfulness. Frimpong was on the score sheet as well, one of the more exciting younger players, former Celtic player, I must also include. But then you have someone that I deeply respected when he played for Arsenal, Granit Xhaka. And what you get with a Granit Xhaka then is you basically put together maybe that kind of, not naivety, but there was that youthfulness, and it brings with it positives and minuses for Leverkusen's reasons. You have a leader there, right? And you get a Hoffmann in, and then you have, which was a great signing, a surprising signing at that. Then you have a Victor Boniface who's come in, who played in Bodeglimt, I believe, as well. But there is that nice little mix, and then led by a Xabi Alonso there. It's looks promising for Leverkusen, as we always say, ahead of every season. But
I just want to say on Leverkusen, just to add what you said, is that also the Florian Wirtz, the guy who missed, he's lost so many games last season because of a cruciate ligament. And now he's back getting a goal there that could do enormous for his self-confidence. I always try to remember people when we think of these stars as machines. They have exactly the same problem, both mentally, physically, as everybody else. So Florian Wirtz been seen as one of the biggest talent in German football, maybe next to Musiala, and now he is back with a goal. That was good to see. And Olma scoring, Openda scoring for Leipzig. What I like about Leipzig, I said it last time, but I also with Leverkusen, is that they are a bit different when you compare them with an Arsenal and a City. And well, it can be misunderstood, but sometimes Arsenal and City with Arteta and Pep, they try then to control the game. So they will like a boxer, would just be keep on boxing till the opposition is so tired, and then they attack, if you know what I mean. What Leverkusen and Leipzig is so good at, there there is like an energy in every game. I will compare them a bit to Newcastle. I did it the last episode as well, I think, or I said it this week. I will compare them with Newcastle because there is something about when you see they don't try to control the game. It's just like, see, we have this speed and we go all in. And that was a great game. So Leverkusen, Leipzig did themselves good. If I may then start with the next game, Dortmund against Cologne. It is what the Germans call an Arbeitssieg. So they just needed that win. I guess they would like to think that the last home game they had in the Bundesliga, if they could do the same against Mainz, then they would call themselves champions at the moment. Selke, the striker of Köln, had a great chance. They had some great chances, Köln. But at the end of the day, Malen scored the winner for them. Malen, who everybody said will maybe take another step this. But I made some, Marcus, some details about Hummels.
Yes, please do. This is our favorite part of the whole round.
Yeah,
I think. And one for him as well.
Yeah, it is interesting with Mats Hummels. He's getting older. I followed him in all his career. I've always been critical to his defensive skills. Going forward, he's been one of the best defenders of his generation. I had some a bit like fighting with him. He even went so far at one stage to send me a DM at Twitter in a polite, smiley way, wondering what I'm all about. But I have to say, in this game, Marcus, he had 164 touches of the ball. 164. I mean, I remember back in the days when I played, if you had 120 or over 100, that was amazing. And he had 164. But even he had 4 shots on target. He's a centre half. And with 32.44, he was the quickest man on the pitch. So respect, Mats Hummels. It's great to see you back. Great to see you back.
Could you remind us of what the incident was that invoked him to send you a Twitter DM?
No, I can't remember that but I'm a lot in German TV doing my stuff, and I always try to be honest. And some of my German colleagues, Mats Hummels is the best defender ever, finito. And I say yes, he's very good going forward, doing with his outside
of this pass,
yeah. Best. He's Franz Beckenbauer, he's their Kaiser. But defensively, he's been involved in too many Gegentore, goals against for Dortmund. So I think that was one of those critics.
Oh, brilliant. No, it wasn't, like you said, it was a Arbeitssieg in the sense that they weren't very convincing, and I saw most of the game, and Köln were well in it, and I think Baumgart and Köln will be disappointed actually that they did lose, and there was ultimately a little run off the back from Malen there, where you've always said to me, if you stick a step back, you're always available in the back post, and he was able to get it rather unconventionally into the back of the net. We go down the list, and I think we'll be a bit flexible in terms of we've had a new segment in terms of player of the round and what have you. It leads us into one of our player of the rounds, but maybe we save that to the very end. But Union Berlin, who we tend to think, but surely it's got to end now, right? And then since their promotion, they were 11th, and I think 7th, and then 5th, and then they got Champions League, secured the last game of the season last season, and they go on to win 4-1 against Mainz. Mainz missed 2 penalties by the same player, Ajork, but nonetheless, a Behrens hat-trick, a first hat-trick with all 3 headers for the first time in 26 years, I believe. Union Berlin keep on going. I predicted them 4th. You predicted Leverkusen 4th, so that'll be an interesting one at that. But there's no reason why Union Berlin shouldn't be at the very top, it seems, going into this season.
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but they manage to don't care about the reasons. They always do their stuff. And there is a lot of teams going into the Champions League for the first time, or for some, for the first time in a long time. We're talking about Newcastle in England. We're thinking, well, the Doppelbelastung, playing 2 games in the Champions League, what will they do? But you just got a feeling that Union Berlin, they will somehow make that. And you also get that feeling that Union Berlin will, of course, get one of the best teams in the draw. They will get one of the biggest, and they will come to Union. I will again new season, the same advice. Go and have a look at a home game of Union Berlin. I mean, so cozy. It's so small. The atmosphere is brilliant. And Union winning against Mainz, a Mainz team that is well run. You expect them to be around a Europa League place if they have the same consistency that they had part of last season. So great games for Union, and I will keep my player of the round to later. So I won't say who scored for Union.
That's smart. No, just to conclude on Union, I think what's so interesting about them is that they built, right? Building block. There's been no cheating. They haven't spent excessively, but they spent smart. They made some really shrewd signings this summer. They have pretty much double coverage at any position, which makes me optimistic that they can deal with the double exposure that there is Champions League and the league, and then the cup comes with it, of course. We bring in Brendan Aronson, who was a Leeds Premier League last season, one of the most promising American players. Kevin Gosens, who we remember was thriving along the left wing back for Germany, and then kind of gone down a bit, but nonetheless, a German international. Kevin Volland, another German international, was a German international. David Fofana on loan from Chelsea. Then you got Lucas Toussaint from Hertha Berlin, rival. And by the way, Hertha Berlin, first 3 games of the Zweite Bundesliga, lost 3-0 at Hamburg, are bottom of the league. So this, if the differences weren't stark before, they certainly are now. Then you got Diego Leite from Porto, permanent. You have Alex Kral, who used to play in the Premier League. They have great coverage and just a very strong squad. And now it's a matter of how you manage that for Urs Fischer. But nonetheless, very impressive. A kind of prime model as to how you run a club and kind of have those slow and steady building blocks, I guess. Nothing you want to say on that? Then I'll go ahead.
I'm just saying. The reason I didn't say anything because I think that fitted very well in a short video that you can put out to the listeners, and we can say that unplugged. That's how we work. If some of us say something bright, then I didn't want to interfere. What I will just add to what you said is that Kevin Volland came from Monaco. He's been a globetrotter in football. Getting older, a striker, but an honest striker. You know, the good thing about signings like that, and I was a manager at Lillestrøm. I always said you can never have enough strikers because a striker, Kevin Volland, say that he scores you 7 goals, and everybody will say, well, how good is that? Yeah, but that is good because that could be the 1-0 away at Hoffenheim. That is the 2-1 goal against Augsburg at home. He came on in the 80th minute. So I think signings like that, they are very, very clever. The management of Union Berlin, top notch, how they built up that club. So that is one of my mascots, is one of my the team that I will absolutely follow in the Champions League. I hope they will have a fantastic experience.
And another one of your, I wouldn't call mascot teams, Dad, but one of the teams that you backed for surprise team of the season was Gladbach. And Gladbach being a team that has had to go through a large overhaul. A new manager, Farke didn't work out. In comes Suane, who I would love to hear your kind of description of, because he is a highly rated manager, just ended a bit poorly with Leverkusen, but largely in a rebuilding phase, Dad. But I guess what was one of the reasons you backed Gladbach as being that surprise team this season when a lot of others might doubt as to how they'll fare this season?
Well, it's basically Suane. But I'm also so human. I like him as a person, and one of the reason is he liked my humor. I don't know if I told them, but we have some viewers. I've interviewed the players after a game, and he was passing me. He's Swiss. And I said to him, listen, we can talk a lot about this game, but tell me, who won the Eurovision Song Contest for Switzerland? And she was not from Switzerland. And he turned around, stopped, came back, and he said, I know, is that Celine Dion? I said, yes, it is Celine Dion. And he was so a good guy. Now, it was not only that reason. I think that's Gladbach got a culture, one of the old great clubs of Germany. I think they kind of, for a couple of seasons, I think they needed a restart now, Gladbach. And I think that is one of the reasons I tipped them. This game against Augsburg was a funny game because Gladbach, it was Augsburg against Gladbach. Gladbach was 3-1 up. Then they were 4-3 down. And then in the 97th minute, they got the equalizer. So that was 4-4. And we shall not talk about Wrexham, Swindon Town this weekend. 5-5. As you know, Swindon got a habit of losing with things when they are leading. 4-4 in Augsburg, 7 different goal scorers. It was a spectacle of a game for Gladbach and Augsburg.
Yeah, I guess it kind of sums it up when you are in that rebuilding phase that some of the goals that Gladbach scored there and kind of showed the qualities, but at the same time, maybe that inexperience maybe being to their detriment as they weren't able to hold on to the league, as did Swindon. And there we have the Gladbach-Swindon connection that we will seldomly have again on this podcast, but nonetheless, it is out there. I guess when we come towards the end here, we had Frankfurt, obviously, who won 1-0.
I watched that game.
Brief mention of that game as Kolomuani scored. How do you see that as for a team that's also brought in a lot of players and also in a bit of a rebuilding stage?
What would you do without Mania? Has been the thing they've talked about the whole summer in Germany. I made a column for Bild Zeitung the other day, and we had to talk about Mania because he didn't play well in the preseason. And I said yes, but he will be okay in the first game because you can't hide. You can't say to anybody, yeah, but I'm so worried that PSG is in and want me. The latest now from Germany, and as we are speaking, is the Monday afternoon, so there could be news later. But PSG have made an official offer of him, 65 million, apparently. Frankfurt have said all summer they want 100 million euro. So but I got a feeling that something will happen there. This was not a convincing win for Frankfurt. They had a bit of the same problem that they've had at home when they 1-0 up and they couldn't kill it off. And there was some good chances for Darmstadt. It's a local rival. But at the end of the day, it's all about winning the game. And Wani scoring maybe in his last game. I hope not. But then again, I think that's Crusher. He got a plan. He will go of the likeliness that he needs an extra striker in there. If I may say, Marcus, maybe you have a plan, but I will say in the same kind of, the daily life of German football, Wolfsburg winning 2-0 against Heidenheim, the newly promoted team. Jonas Wind, the Dane, scoring 2 goals for Wolfsburg. Hoffenheim losing at home against to Freiburg. 2 Salai scored, not the same Salai, one with Salai, both scoring from Hungary. They scored the goals for Freiburg. And talking about a team that always some muscular problems before the game, so he couldn't play for Hoffenheim, which I think was bad for him because he got a great record in Germany there, goes playing for Wolfsburg. I think that is a great signing for them. So
Hoffenheim, I think it'll be interesting to see. I think it'll be
that's your surprise.
Yeah, that's my surprise. But I will see. I think I'd be curious. I think they've made some shrewd signings. But what
about Stuttgart? We have forgotten Stuttgart.
Yeah, and last but not least, Stuttgart. Yeah, and Stuttgart is also one of those. There are a bit of expectations. Were a bit expectations too, maybe not, but in the sense that they look like a revived team under Sebastian Hoeneß, right? So, and they won convincingly against Hamburg in the relegation playoff. Now won against a 5-0 against a Bochum side that we both have tipped for relegation.
Yeah,
interesting to see with Bochum, who's kind of. I think they realized that they need to change their approach a bit. They stayed up mostly because of their home form. So in that sense, it's not the end of the world, but 5-0 away to Stuttgart. But take nothing away from Stuttgart either. 5-0, 2 goals from Gurasai as well. I'd be curious.
Wasn't 2 goals from Silas as well? Silas, yes, the guy from Congo. So the African continent had a great day in Mercedes-Benz Arena. Mm-hmm. Great win for them. The first game after Endo, their captain went to Liverpool. I spent the whole week explaining the English that this could be a smart move for them. I said to them, if he was South American, cost 90 million, and nobody had a clue who he was. Everybody say it would be a great deal, but I couldn't understand that getting a 30-year-old from Stuttgart, having a German sport director, a German coach. You can think that 2 + 2 is 4. But now Endo straight into the team. McAllister will probably get 3 games suspension, although they have put in a request to have a look at it again. But I think that will be stood or standing. So Endo will be back in the team. I think, Marcus, at the end now we have to have, you can start, you're the youngest. Who's your player of the first round?
Well, I will go for a Gladbach player who scored 2 goals. I will go for, and if there are any Czechs listening, Tomáš Švankara. But Gladbach have lost their 4 main contributors from last season. They lost Ben Sabaini to Dortmund. They lost Stindl, who went back to Karlsruhe, I believe. They lost Thuram. And they've lost Hoffmann to Leverkusen. That is a large chunk of their goal contributions, meaning there will be an expectations, a kind of pressure, I believe, on the young Czech 22-year-old who won the league with Sparta Prague last season, got his international debut, has scored as well at that. Tall striker, athletic, he can contribute, but Gladbach will need him. And he scored 2 goals in a 4-4 fixture. So for me, I guess this will be a celebration of the strikers. Tends to be that way when they score the goals. But yeah, that will be for me. And maybe someone, for listeners to look out for as we kind of mix known players with unknown players as we start this new segment of player of the round. But let me hear your dad, and I suspect which one it might be, but give him the praise he deserves, because what an underrated player at that.
I will start with my player of the Bundesliga Runde 1. I have to go to Union Berlin. So Union Berlin winning 4-1. And then there is something in German football. You have some of them in English football as well. These strikers who doesn't do it all the way. They are still around and they always score their goals and they play for so many different clubs. So my player of the round is Kevin Behrens. Kevin Behrens is born in Bremen, started off there. And the reason I put my glasses on is that he played for so many different clubs. He played he played in Bremen, not in the top team, but in Hannover, Aachen, Rot-Weiß Essen, Saarbrück, Sandhausen. And then he's been at Union since 2021. So he's been a very big part of their rise to the top, which is good. He has played only 32 and he's played only 58 Bundesliga games. So, and all of them for Union. So all of them, and if I think he 31 goals, which is good. That is more or less every second game. But what it made it for me was that Kevin Behrens in 2023 scoring a hat-trick in a top 5 league of the world. People, I see that in England, there are Rolls Royces, there are Lamborghinis, there are Ferraris, there are drivers, there are people taken away from the games in helicopter. Kevin Behrens put himself on a bike and he's biking home after the game. And in the German press, there was no photo of him more or less scoring. There was one guy, a fan, who kind of get him on a photo driving home for Christmas, I would say. Biking home after a hat trick, I think is a fantastic story. One of those unsung heroes where you have Harry Kane for 100 million euro and then you have Kevin Behrens that nobody outside Union or all the other clubs have heard of. He's my man of the round, first round of the German Bundesliga 23-24.
Well, I think you certainly made this new segment justice with that passionate plea to look for Kevin Behrens, who hat-trick all 3 with his head, 3 fantastic headed goals at that. And that concludes our first episode, I guess, of the new season, the Bundesliga season, as we look ahead to the fixtures coming up. Only one game in, Dad. Hard to say where teams are looking, what have you, but it sure is good to get started again.
It is so, absolutely. And have a look, the cult second Liga. You said it, Marcus. Hertha Berlin, they are bottom of the league. Schalke losing. And Hamburger Sportsfreund, they're scoring goals for fun, but conceding goals for fun. But this round, they beat, was it Hertha? 3-0. So a clean sheet for Hamburger Sportsverein, and we are following that as a bit. And our mascot, Füllkrug, Marcus, as we're speaking, he is linked to so many clubs. He could be leaving Werder Bremen. There's a lot of things to follow in the German football.
As always, exciting. Plenty of goals, plenty of insight, plenty of news. That's all for now. Thank you so much. And then we'll see each other next week.
Auf Wiedersehen.